What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. Now, as you can probably tell by my voice and the way that I sound, I feel a bit under the weather. So, we're just going to push through. We're going to carry on doing content. Content every single day, but the weekend. Because, it's the weekend. Today we're going to be reacting to Modern Warfare 3, piece of soundtrack from the new one, I think it is. The remake or whatever. I was recommended this. So without further ado, let's jump in, let's break it down, let's analyze this soundtrack from one of the most classic video games, one of the most famous FPS shooters, but not only that, one of the most famous FPS shooters series in Call of Duty, So let's get into it. I really love how they're setting this up to be quite a horror action theme. You look at just how the strings is played. There is very little reverb. A kind of echo. There is echo. It's kind of a little bit of sound design. It's almost like a little bit of like rain and a bit of anguish and a bit of kind of glitchiness within this soundtrack here. This opening, it's 3 minutes and 28 seconds. But with that first opening, we get a lot of short bursts on the violins. We get a lot of the rises and tensions. We get a lot of drones that's building the bass and the atmosphere. Uh, you know, it looks like something's about to go down. The preparation before a battle. That's what it sounds like to me. Um, let's just continue with it. That there. Boom. It feels like an explosion went off in a city, or an explosion went off. Just boom. Just a little pop off into the mix. It just reminds me of just that warfare feel, the realness of the warfare. And then even off into the mix as well, the dun, 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 dun. It's almost like a timer for a bomb. Like you have to defuse a bomb, but the timer is pumping, pause. So the techniques here is what I can pick up is that there's a normal violin, just a normal like long duration, just when the violins are played normally. Then there's more of a staccato, and then a pizzicato. There's some tremolo in there as well. So they're using a whole lot of the techniques. There's certain sustain techniques that, like a lot of that technique, which is a bit of like a tremolo, but a tremolo maybe short sustain, just amplifying the modern warfare of it, pun intended, of course. So a bit of electronic drums as the percussion. We heard like the violin as kind of the pushback. Not the pushback, sorry, but more of the um, adding to the percussion. It really does feel like they're, so it's because it's modern warfare, feels like they're using a lot of like the real life composing, real life conducting, underlying that though a lot of electronic drums. So it really does feel like that they're taking the modern aspect of it, which, that would be a modern soundtrack thing to do. It's not unheard of. Um, but yeah, let's just keep going with it. And this is all 42 seconds in, by the way. There's a lot going on. It's almost like this might have been this. It almost feels like this might have been the soundtrack to the trailer. At times, and this is a good thing because this is a great piece of composition. But what I mean by this is it feels like a trailer music. It's a lot of it feels like I could cut between and use certain action sequences that would amplify this. It really does feel like this was designed for the trailer, or maybe it is meant for a cinematic in the game. Again, guys, I've only played the OG games, not the remakes or the prequels or whatever. I've not like played the. I've played Black Ops 6, but what I mean is I haven't played none of the remakes and stuff because they were received quite poorly. So y'all gonna have to post in the comments down below if this was used for the trailer or if it was used for a cinematic. Okay, so we're halfway to the point of the soundtrack, and they've used, and I think us aspiring composers, we need to listen up. Listen up here. It's starting off with normal electronic drums. But there is it feels very little, but there is so much going on. Into the next act, we hear violins too, but the violins too is playing just a couple of octaves down the same motif that violin 1 is using, but it's more of like the glitchiness. Then the kind of timer effect comes in, back with the percussion, so we almost get this juxtaposed to, like, we're in the action period of the video game, we're in the action period of said thing. That's so cool of a technique. I'm gonna have to listen to it again so I can properly break it down. That violin there is playing like the motif, the theme, the leitmotif. That is playing. That is the main theme right there, up at layer 1. But right there, it's not. I'm just demonstrating. Right there, we're having layer 2, which is obviously like violin 2, but it's just playing a different sound. So it sounds different and it's not exactly the same. That and then the timer's there, which is probably a hi-hat, but they've shaped the sound of that hi-hat to be a little bit of like a ticking timer, which is just so cool. Let's take it back. Let's break some of this down. Boy, so much in this. Okay, I like to break down scores into acts. Okay, you get Act One, which is kind of the introduction. You get Act Two, which is kind of like, okay, what are we kind of going for? Then Act Three is obviously kind of like chilling out and kind of looping it back over, because remember, in games you kind of have to loop the soundtrack over so it plays over and over again for the player. If they get stuck on one mission, if they're in, the lobby or whatever it may be, right? Like you have to somehow loop it, or at least end it off where it can be looped, right? But this Act 3 just seems like it's just going into a different direction. We have so much sound effects going on, so much. It just feels like the first act, but they're bringing in so much of the craziness of the instrumentation. We're getting synths in there. We're getting obviously the electronic drums. We're having so much instrumentation that I'm gonna have to rewind it and listen to it again and then break it down as I'm hearing it. Even that's such a short, sustained violin, just a yeah, yeah. Right there, that's a synth right there. Down, down, down. Then the glitching starts to happen, like the kind of the shuddering, like the of a shutter. Uh, I don't really know what you would call it, but I'm gonna call it like a glitch effect, because that's what it sounds like. That's what is, to me, that's what's being represented as, like a glitch effect. Um, Then brass, the horns and the brass come in, which is higher octave, especially the horns comes in. So now they're taking this for the third act. They're taking this bigger and stronger with it. They're homing in on this motif. It's big, it's bombastic, it's epic. They're leaning into the epicness of it. The horns really much do that, but it's amplifying the main motif. So it's dun, 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 dun. And then we just get the risers and the ticking from the background. It really does feel like the bomb is ticking down, tick 5, 4, 3, and then this is kind of like it's amplifying that anxietiness of a modern warfare. Then the tremolo begins to play this motif. That's the tremolo coming right in. Now we're hearing the ticking, kind of like so more of the glitching effect is coming and is being presented to us. Well, that was a nice way to end it off. Let's just hear that again. And again. That ending. Just why tease at the end a synth bass? Nah, for this is dumb. Joking. Uh, I think the biggest highlight for this soundtrack um is trailer esque um soundtrack. It gives me that feel. Not saying that's a bad thing. I think this is a great soundtrack. I really do. But there were a lot of moments in that first act of this composition where it really does like this could fit in to a trailer. And maybe they did. Maybe they did take the first half of this score and just kind of fit it into a trailer. They do use the soundtrack in video games and movies and TV shows. They do use the soundtrack that the composers make in the games. Um, so maybe when the composer sent this into the studio and they were like, oh oh, but ladies and gentlemen, uh, I will this is a great soundtrack. It's got the action. It's got the drums, it's got the percussion. It's mixed very well because at times it gets loud and it was mixed very well. I don't even think it peaked, which is so because when I was in university, they tell you that having a little bit of peaking can be good. You know, having a bit of room, as long as it doesn't go into the red. Like if it goes into the yellow, that's fine. But if it starts peaking into the red, then you got a problem. With all the instrumentation, there must have been at least 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 layers in total. And that's not even accounting the effects, you know, the risers, the glitches effects, the synths. You know, I think some of those violins as well were passed through like synth filters and kind of filtered through synths to get more of that modern esque sounding quality. I definitely know the percussion in the beginning and in the middle, not so much towards the end because it feels like it was backed up through real life kick drums, but it certainly did feel like electronic. But ladies and gentlemen, you came here for my opinion on the soundtrack, and it is a really, really good soundtrack, a really good gaming soundtrack. But if you want to voice your opinions, post down in the comments down below. If you want to add in a recommendation to a game soundtrack, post down in the comments down below. But until my next video, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to sleep because I'm unwell. But until my next video, bye bye.